The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
This is Haymaker Combat Sports. Hear it here, coming straight from the source. Only with the real, they ain't here to dress it up. Sweet science, MMA, you can get it all from us. Trust, 5 stars cause it's live. And through the fight game, we can guide ya. Slick talking, putting them in caution. Passing all the goals cause the audio is awesome. What you waiting for? Spread the word, tell a friend. This the podcast where all of the discussion ends. When they start going strike for strike, this the show that'll tell you what you seen in the fight. And they ain't playing on the mic, this a welcome to the show. Warm it up for the squad, Haymaker of the bros. I'm about wow, you can hear from the pros. It's Haymaker Combat Sports, time to roll.
Welcome to Haymaker Combat Sports, powered by the Belly Up Sports Media Network. I'm your host, EJ Reed, joined by my fellow host, Aaron Admire, making his return. Just a dynamic duo this week. What's up, Admire?
We are back. I'm finally in the new office. I'm settled in. We had a little technical difficulty, so if I sound different, I'm on my AirPods. I guess in the move, my microphone is damaged or my microphone amp. I don't know. So I will get that figured out this week.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. Things happening when you move, but looks like you're all settled in. How was the move overall?
The move is okay. This is my new office. I've kind of got it decorated a little bit. I got all my baseball stuff up. It's still got a lot of stuff behind me to unpack. It's different. I mean, we're just so busy with everything. Like stepdaughter just had prom last week. We got graduation next week. We have my mom's birthday. My birthday's coming up. Like my son's birthday's coming. Like we're so busy with the move and everything's going on. We still haven't unpacked all the way. We're trying to take care of the pool. This yard is huge. Like it's just a million things going on at once. Like it's just crazy. I guess I could do this. Check out my view though. Let me see if it'll let me switch to my iPhone camera. Let me see.
Oh yeah, it does.
Yes. Yep. So there's my view. There's right outside is my pool. So that's my view from my office. I got a patio right there, and I get to check out the pool.
Nice. I saw a video online and you jumping in the pool fully clothed. That's crazy work right there.
Yeah. It's pretty. I mean, it's the weather here. It's about the same there. It's been in the 70s, and we clean the pool all the time because you got to clean it. There's stuff that blows in it, the dirt and stuff. And I got tired of cleaning it all the time and not being able to use it. So I just jumped in the other night after we cleaned it. It was pretty cold, but, finally got to use it once.
Good thing you didn't have like your phone in your pocket or anything.
Oh, I knew I was going to do it. I just emptied my pockets and jumped. I went for it.
Nice. Well, it's good that you're getting settled in, but like you said, it seems like you got a full slate on your hands as far as events and stuff coming up.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been busy with the move and just everything going on with the kids. And like the second we moved in, the freaking dishwasher like blew up that came with the house. So I had like the day I went back to work that I had to replace the dishwasher, and like something's always going on.
Something always is going on, and then it always seems like stuff like that adds up. Like you gotta pay for this here and there, and that adds up, and then something else over here stops working, and you gotta pay for that shit, and on and on and on.
Yeah, and then like I work at home, so I had to get internet installed, and I wanted fiber. Well, they couldn't install it for 2 weeks after I moved in. So I had to get cable internet for like a week. Well, the cable internet here sucked. It was cutting out all the time. So like my work was getting interrupted. Like, so it just sucked back and forth. And, me, I'm a dude. I had to get my TVs going and, get them hooked up and all that stuff. There's speakers outside. I wanted speakers outside. It's just all this little stuff going on at once. That's why I was like, man, I can't do the podcast. We're still unpacking. I don't have my personal computer set up. I'll try to get everything settled in. So we're back to normal. We're on task. We're good to go. I've been watching some fights. I'm ready for fights this weekend. We're back in action.
Yeah. Last piece of work. We just got to get that mic working in yours, and then we'll fully be back at it. But
Yeah.
we got a lot on the slate, so let's jump into it as far as news story goes. And you brought up something before we started recording, and I feel like we have to touch on it. Last weekend down in was it Ames, Iowa? I want to say, or was it Iowa City? They're in some part of Iowa.
Were they in Des Moines?
Oh, I think you might be right. It might have been in Des Moines. And I think this might have been their first time going there, actually, or first time in a long time. They don't go to Des Moines a lot, but I know they also had WWE in town, so they've been trying to do a lot of pairings as far as TKO goes. WWE was in the same weekend that they were in Kansas City a couple weeks ago, so you've seen them pair a lot of stuff up together recently. But like I said, they had a fight going down in Des Moines, and it was the co-main event on this one. A guy that came in with a lot of hype, Bo Nickal. He actually lost the reigning Ritter by TKO. I think they got to the second round. And I don't know the odds on this one, but I think Bo Nickal went in as a pretty big favorite. And UFC has put a lot of hype train behind this guy. He didn't get knocked out like clean to the head, but it was like a body blow that got him out of there. And there's been a lot of chatter around him losing this fight. And what were your initial thoughts when you saw him lose last weekend?
Was it a body blow? I thought it was a knee, like a knee out of nowhere that got him.
Yeah, knee to the body.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been, like everybody else, real high on Bo Nickal on the hype train. But as a contradiction, I've always said from the beginning, that first loss is very important because you see kind of how they bounce back. That's really how you can tell where he's going to go with his career. Is he going to, continue to lose? Is he going to, be down on himself, or is he going to bounce back, train harder, learn from it? It wasn't like he just got, starched and beat up. He was doing good in that fight, in my opinion. It's just that knee kind of came out of nowhere and he got caught. He didn't see it coming. So it wasn't like a brutal, just complete beat down in that fight. He just got caught. So it wasn't that bad. I mean, the biggest thing that came out of this fight to me is like, have you seen what Luke Rockhold's doing? Just kind of talking shit, kind of giving Bo Nickal a lot of shit, because everybody was high on Bo Nickal. So I think Rockhold's just throwing a lot of shade at him. Whatever, Luke Rockhold, he was a great fighter, talk your shit, whatever. But
he's washed up.
Yeah, but I mean, he was good in his time, but I think Bo Nickal will be back, no problem. He's one of those guys, he was high-level wrestler. He's lost before. He'll come back and just learn from it. Not a big deal, just minor setback.
So I watched this fight in full, but I was multitasking last weekend. So maybe I got to watch it back. Maybe it was a tale of two rounds because you said he wasn't doing too bad. I think he may have held his own in the first round, but I'm looking back at the second round as we speak, and even before he got caught, he was getting beat. He was getting outclassed at the beginning of the second round. Like he was just getting beat up in the second round. So maybe it was the Ritter's corner that just kind of re-strategized after first round and able to find a hole that they saw and exploit it. But
yeah. And I mean, the Ritter's a big dude. I mean, 6'4". I mean, that's good sized middleweight. And he's not no chump. I mean, he only had 2 losses. He's been in there with some good people. He beat Kevin Holland. He's been in there with some really good guys. So it's not like he was just some guy getting thrown in there to let Bo Nickal just go in and wash. So, good fighter, good win.
So Nickal, he's a young, relatively speaking, in the sport, but I think he's about to be 30 soon. Still a lot of upside, so I'm sure he's got to go back to the drawing board, talk to his team. But as far as UFC matchmaking, do you think they should take a step back and like maybe hold off on throwing them at top 10, top 15 people?
Yeah, I mean, anytime that somebody like this has that much hype behind them, and then something happens and they catch that first loss, you don't want to continue to just give them that big hype. You kind of just really got to slow down. The Ritter's up there in that 10 to 15 spot. I think he's like 12 or 13. So leave Bo Nickal at the back of the pack. Give Bo Nickal somebody that's just sitting right outside of that, and somebody that's in his same range before you give him somebody that's ranked again. Let him get one more win on the outside before you let him on that inside. If he can get another win, then let him in there. And I always throw up and name somebody like Paulo Costa. After Bo Nickal proves himself, if he can get another win, throw him to Paulo Costa, let him in there against somebody, Kopylov or Magomedov or Brendan Allen, somebody like that.
Yeah, I definitely don't think they should throw a top 15 at him next fight. Throw somebody that's like slightly outside of that and kind of ease them back into it, because we often complain on the show about like lack of stars, and clearly they've been trying to make this guy a star, based off his credentials coming in from the freestyle wrestling world, and he was at Penn State, high level All-American there. So they are banking on him putting eyes on the cards and whatnot. But it's like a dance you got to play as far as doing that as well, because you do want to get the big fights for this guy, kind of fast track him a little bit. But if you fast track them too much, then you probably see what happened this past weekend with the Ritter. Like, he go against a high level striker, or like I don't know, there's too many high level wrestlers that he couldn't counteract, but like just grappling, like you got grappling as far as like the submission game goes. If he runs into somebody high level, he might get choked out. So that's you got to kind of toe the line on like not rushing them too fast, but still putting them in fights where you can market them being in a co-main event on a fight night card or on the main card of a pay-per-view. So I like to see what the matchmakers do with him next, because you got a lot of haters. I don't know why he has a lot of haters, but like people are laughing at him getting knocked out on like Twitter and all of that, but he'll bounce back.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that has the fast track, and a lot of hype behind them, they always get the haters. You got the Sage Northcutts had the haters, Sugar Sean O'Malley had the haters. Just anybody that has the fast rise, they always have the haters. Conor McGregor, just everybody.
Yeah, people are online calling him Bo Penny. I'm like, internet is undefeated.
Yeah, but all the people talking, they ain't gonna step in there with him. So whatever.
Yeah, they get this shit rock. That'd be a bad night, but we'll see. But in other combat news, this isn't MMA, but we're still a combat sports show. Did you see this? Manny Pacquiao is coming out of retirement, and his first fight back is right into a world title shot against Mario Barrios. So what do you think? What do you think about Manny Pacquiao coming out of retirement?
Well, let me pull up Pacquiao. Well, the first thing is I didn't know that me and Pacquiao were so close in age.
I mean, he's still like 6 years older than you.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't realize that we were. I mean, 6 years, that's still pretty close. I mean, it just he's been fighting forever, so it just seems like he was older. But I don't know, man. Good luck. He didn't look good in his last few fights. Like I'm still bitter over the Mayweather fight. That's the fight that everybody wanted, and everybody wanted to see him fight Mayweather, and it was just too little, too late. So I'm still bitter over that. But I mean, anything can happen. It's boxing, but I just don't think that he's going to have it anymore.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, why? Like, at this point, he's probably got all the money in the world and generational wealth at this point. It's not just him, but is it just like a thing with like any sports athlete? They get addicted to just the rush of being out there in front of fans, and doing that at a high level? Like, what's the point of him even coming back at this point?
Well, that's what you gotta wonder is like why though. I mean, one, how does a guy that hasn't had a fight in 4 years come back and get a title shot instantly when his last fight 4 years ago was a loss? So I mean, you wouldn't see that in the UFC. Somebody come back and get a title shot after 4 years coming off a loss.
Yeah, maybe not coming off a loss, but we've seen like GSP get title shots, but he would. Like
But GSP retired as the champ, so I mean that's kind of justified. But Pacquiao didn't retire as a champ; he came off of a loss, so it's just kind of weird. But I mean, it. I want to know: is Pacquiao coming back for the money? Is he coming back to jumpstart a movie career? Like, what's the angle here? Is kind of what I want to know. But I mean, I couldn't imagine Pacquiao being out of money. I'm going to just look up his net worth. Like, he's got to be completely loaded still.
Oh yeah, he's definitely like a 9-figure, and he's got the political career.
Yeah. I mean, the first answer, you never know about these, but the first one that comes up is 220 million.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, but you never know. Sometimes these guys run into tax problems and whatnot. But
True.
For some reason, I thought his record was a little bit worse. Like you said, he was coming off a loss, but before that, he was on a little 3-fight winning streak. He beat Matthias, Adrian Broner, and Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman, that seems like a pretty impressive win, but that was all the way back in 2019, so it was a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't even remember him fighting Adrian Broner.
I remember that fight. Pissed off. I remember because I was living in the San Francisco Bay Area at the time, and we were at a bar. We were watching it in the city. Actually, we were in because I lived in the San Jose area, but it was like a 45-minute drive to San Francisco, and we were watching that in the San Francisco bar, and I was just pissed off at the fight because it's kind of sucked. But I remember that fight for sure. I can't really remember the Keith Thurman fight. That was like literally a day after I moved to Missouri that fight happened. So I was probably unpacking and shit and probably didn't have my shit set up when that fight came on. Because I moved here 3 days after my birthday, and that Keith Thurman fight happened on July 20th. So
I just pulled up Keith Thurman. That's still his only loss is Manny Pacquiao.
Keith Thurman was good. That's what I'm saying. That's a good win for Pacquiao. Multi-time champion. Keith Thurman was one time.
Yeah, he just had a fight like 2 months ago.
That for some reason I didn't get to see that. It happened in Australia too. Maybe that's why. And he had a long layoff. He beat Marius Barrios, the guy Pacquiao is facing. So it's interesting. Maybe they're doing combat sports math, and they're like, well, since Pacquiao beat Thurman and Thurman beat Barrios, why not put Barrios? But that's still,
yeah. I mean, maybe that's our reason right there. I mean, that could be the exact reason.
But I'm sure we'll watch it, but I'm not like excited, and I don't know why it's happening. So we'll see. He probably be pushing a record for like world champion oldest. Like we know George Foreman was like 44, wasn't he? 44, 45.
Yeah. I mean, he was pretty old when he won that.
So Pacquiao might be, if he were to win, he'd be knocking on the door of beating that record, or like oldest world champion. We'd have to check that out.
Oldest boxing champion list. Bernard Hopkins was the oldest light heavyweight champion at 46 years, 4 months. George Foreman holds a record at 45. So Bernard Hopkins is the oldest at 46.
Pacquiao be right there with it. I think he would beat it by maybe a month or two. So we'll see. But we talking about somebody coming back. Speaking of retirement, a couple weeks ago down in your neck of the woods, Kansas City, Anthony Smith basically put his gloves down in the cage, and in the pro wrestling terms, he went out on his back and he lost against Zhang Mi Yang in that co-main event. And the chatter behind this is, did Anthony Smith deserve all the fanfare that they had behind him retiring? He had a video package. It was like a lot of fanfare for fighters that don't get the same treatment, fair or foul.
That was kind of weird, man. Like he lost 6 of his last 8 fights. I mean, yeah, the dude fought for the title at one point, but he just never was like one of my favorite fighters. I never thought that highly of him. I mean, he had a good run, in the late 20 teens. He had that run where he beat like Hector Lombard, Rashad Evans, Shogun, and then he lost to John Jones, but then he kind of slowed down, lost to Teixeira, Ankalaev, Johnny Walker, and just he had that long skid. And then you mentioned the video package. It was like this Hall of Famer retired. It was just weird. I just never thought of Anthony Smith in that way, but maybe it was because he did the UFC like he did a lot of commentating, and did a lot of death stuff for him. So maybe they felt like they owed him that, but it seemed weird.
And I think they're backing himself in a corner at this point because, like you said, maybe it's because he's on the commentary team, but still, like, I don't know if GSP officially retired, maybe because we didn't see no video package for him or Habib, or I don't even know if we saw one for DC, like a video package for DC.
Yeah, I mean, Bisping. Did Bisping get a video package?
Yeah, that's so weird. And maybe you could say like maybe they didn't announce it ahead of time, but still, there's been fighters that are like, "This is my last fight," and I don't remember seeing any video packages for them. It's quite odd to me. And like you said, I wouldn't consider him a Hall of Famer. He had a title shot that he lost, and
yeah. I mean, it just unless it was the case of Dana White saying, "Hey, man, like we're gonna cut you, so you need to retire. We'll give you a big going away party. Just please fucking retire on your own."
yeah.
I don't know. There was something different about this retirement compared to all other retirements. And I mean, speaking of his retirement, did you see him like going after the fan? Like, what was that about?
I didn't. I heard about it, but I didn't go back and watch it. How did it play out when you watched
Like
it?
he ran to like the cage and like jumped up on it, and his opponent Zhang like kind of had to grab him and calm him down. It looked like the fan in the crowd kind of like flipped him off or something, and like he was like yelling at the fan or something. It was kind of weird, but
That is
I mean,
weird. That's like this almost seems like a little bit of roid rage. Like fans do shit in the crowd all the time, and he's flipping them off from afar, and that set him off like that. That's so
yeah,
weird.
it was. I mean, I don't know if it was like maybe somebody he knew or I mean, it was just really weird. I mean, if you go to TikTok, you could probably find it and check it out, but it was just really weird. I mean, like you said, fans do weird shit all the time. And it's just like, it was really weird because just like this one guy in the crowd had this fighter's attention in that moment and he pissed him off. Like it was just like he was zeroed in on this one guy. And you don't really ever see that.
They got a video of him explaining what happened. Obviously, I can't look at that right now, but he's flipping. I'm watching it right now. He's flipping him off, and like you said, Zhang is stopping him from going out there. And he's hanging on the cage. It's a big dude in the crowd.
Yeah, I don't know.
And he's like pointing at him and flipping him off. Anthony Smith is. Oh man, I gotta listen to his explanation. The video, he did the post show and he's explaining it. So I want to know what his explanation is. Weird, like why are you giving that fan that power in your retirement moment where maybe not even you quite deserve this moment, but you let him take away from this moment? And I don't know. Like you said, you might have knew him since he was in Kansas City, not too far from
Yeah,
Omaha.
maybe it's just somebody from his past, or maybe ex-teammate. I don't know. It's just really weird that one guy can get your attention like that.
Very weird, but we see all types of odd things in the sport that we watch. But yeah, he's got it. Seems like he has himself set up for a post, fight career job. He's on the commentary team, so yeah, wish the best for him. But moving on, another guy that seems to stay in the news, millions and millions of listeners. So I guess he somewhat knows what he's talking about. Joe Rogan was on this podcast, and he said the greatest lightweight fighter of all time is BJ Penn. And that got me thinking, is BJ Penn the greatest lightweight fighter of all time?
Man, in his time he was, but I mean the sport has progressed so much since then that I can't really agree with it. And seeing what BJ Penn went on to become, like, he stayed way past due, man. Like, he went on to just get starts so many times past his prime.
Oh.
But there's a lot of things that people don't know about BJ Penn. Like, did you know that BJ Penn did some jujitsu tournaments at heavyweight? Like, BJ Penn fought Lyoto Machida at heavyweight. Like, he would fight anybody at any time. Like, he was a badass. And his old fights where he went up and fought Matt Hughes at welterweight, like, BJ Penn was one of the greatest fighters, like, pound for pound back then. But there hit a certain point where it seemed like he wasn't really in it mentally, or I think some people even said his family had money, so he wasn't just all the way into fighting, and he kind of just fell off, and he just wasn't all there.
So, I mean, people make the case for Habib, but the knock against Habib is always strength of schedule. So, what do you put more value into, your wins or how much you lose as far as making your case for all-time great? Because I feel like you do have to take those losses into consideration. BJ Penn lost his last 9 of 11 fights. That's disgusting. that's crazy to think about.
I mean, if BJ Penn would have stopped at the Diego Sanchez win, I mean, you could say he's the greatest lightweight ever. But then,
when was Diego Sanchez? When was that happen?
2009.
Okay, but who's gonna stop? Nobody usually stops when they're the champion, though.
Right,
say he would have stopped that at Matt Hughes. Then after the Matt Hughes fight, then you could we'll have a conversation. The second Matt Hughes fight. The third Matt Hughes fight. I didn't realize how many times they fought.
I mean, even that you could probably still say he's one of the greatest at that point. But then, the Nick Diaz fight was so ugly. Like, that fight sucked. And I specifically remember the Nick Diaz fight. That's the fight that BJ Penn came out standing straight up, and he had this weird upright stance, and it was so bad. The Rory McDonald fight, he got absolutely dominated. The third Frankie Edgar fight, he just got destroyed. It just from there. But I mean, it is a hard question when you talk about in terms of greatness. Does it discount everything he'd done in the beginning? I don't know, because he did beat Matt Hughes in his prime. He beat Matt Serra in his prime. Carl, Uno.
Yeah, I don't think Matt Serra was that good. He got lucky against GSP, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but I mean, he beat Gomi. Gomi was good in his prime. Dwayne Ludwig was great back then. But then if you're talking about those old school wins in those fighters, like BJ Penn lost to Jens Pulver early. Jens Pulver went on to lose so many fights and wasn't that great later in his career, but early in his career he's good. I mean, there's so many different arguments you could make, but I think, like I said earlier on, I think the sport's progressed so much that you can't say that BJ Penn is the greatest lightweight fighter, because if you take BJ Penn in his prime, even if you say 2008 BJ Penn that was 12-4 that beat the shit out of Joe Stevenson, if you put him against one of the top lightweights right now, one of the top lightweights right now would beat that BJ Penn. Like, no doubt. Just because the skills have evolved so much now, and MMA as a sport has grown, that there's so much more training and tools, and there's better conditioning, there's better coaches, there's better supplements, there's better just all around everything now, that I think there's better athletes now. There's better everything, that you can't, it's not a fair comparison. I'm not saying BJ Penn wasn't great, not one of the best, but to say he's the best lightweight ever, I don't think I can agree with that.
So I think, like, if he would have stopped after the Fitch fight, like, then you could probably make a better case for him. Like you said, it was a different time, because even looking at some of those people that he beat, a lot of those people, like, they were monsters at the time, but a lot of those guys' careers didn't really pan out to be like incredible. Of course, Matt Hughes, you still put him up there. That was a different division though. Like, that was welterweight. And Joe Rogan was saying best lightweight. So if we take a strictly lightweight, John Shrek, of course, that still ages well. Like you said, he couldn't beat Edgar, lost him 3 times. He won the rubber match against Hughes, but that was, like I said, a welterweight fight. I don't know. So if you had to rank them, I'll keep it at top 4 as far as all-time lightweights. I'll throw Frankie Edgar in the mix. Between Edgar, Penn, Islam, and Habib, where would you rank those as far as top 4 like lightweights all time?
Of all time,
Yeah.
I think I got to, just going off strength of schedule, I got to say Islam probably number 1.
Okay.
Even though he has the loss, I think Islam's had the better, tougher schedule.
Man, that loss was happening so long ago. Like,
and then the second spot, that's where the toss-up comes for me, because I think Khabib has a decent schedule, but I don't think he has the hardest schedule. But then my heart comes into play there, and I want to say Frankie Edgar. So, I mean, the second one is kind of a toss-up for me. I could go either way.
But you also got to take in consideration, Frankie went to featherweight and bantamweight as well. So it wasn't pure lightweight career. Even though he definitely overachieved, he was so undersized in that lightweight division. He still got the belt.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I got to say Frankie Edgar's number 2 because he was so undersized and did so good there. And then I'll do Khabib at 3. I have to, yeah.
I'm trying to figure out, when did Frankie go to featherweight? He went to featherweight in 2013. So anything before that is lightweight. I'm looking at his wins. I didn't realize he lost to Gray Maynard. He lost to Gray Maynard before he got the title.
Yeah, that was one of his early losses, and then
beat Sean Shark, pinned 3 times, lost to Ben. He beat Charles Oliveira. That's like that aged very well. That wouldn't age very well. He also, but that was at featherweight, so it kind of take that out of the equation. That Oliveira win, because we're just talking about lightweight. I don't know, man. I get what you're saying. He was undersized, but if I had to rank him, I think I'd go Islam, Then Habib, like you said, I also criticize his strength of schedule because looking back at it, like that McGregor win did not age well with Habib. Besides McGregor, the Justin Gaethje, that's a good win. He beat Poirier, you can't take that off him. But then Alaquina, Barboza, Michael Johnson, he beat RDA. RDA is a former champion. So yeah, I think I give the slight edge to Habib as far as Edgar, just because he was at lightweight the whole time. But Edgar's career is nothing to sneeze at, and then I put Penn fourth on that list. But maybe like some people, like you said, sometimes people romanticize like the people that they watched in like prime. Maybe that's what Joe Rogan is. Maybe like since he commentated a lot of PJ Penn's fights during the rise, like PJ Penn was integral in the rise of UFC, and I guess would you consider that probably one of the first super fights, him versus DSP?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember for sure which one came first, but BJ Penn against Matt Hughes or GSP, whatever one came first, is really one of the first super fights for sure. But I mean, it's an easy choice though to decide, who's the greatest lightweight. Because if you think about it, if you think BJ Penn in his prime, could he beat? In his prime, he didn't beat Frankie Edgar, but in his prime, could he beat Habib or could he beat Islam? No, there's no way he could beat either of those guys. There's no way.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. But I'd have to look back. He might have been the first like 2-division champion. I know it'd be either him or what's the guy's name?
I think there were a couple guys that were 2-division over in Pride, but I think he was one of the first UFC
Randy
guys.
Couture. I don't know why Randy Couture's name slipped my mind, but Randy Couture is either him or Randy Couture, one of the first 2-division champions. I don't know who won their second one first, because I want to say BJ Penn was welterweight even before he got to the lightweight. Oh, never mind. Well, no, okay, so he had a draw. What's that?
Yeah, Randy Couture was the first to hold multiple divisions.
Okay, so BJ Penn fought for the vacant lightweight championship but didn't win it. He won the welterweight title before he won the lightweight title, which is interesting. So, yeah, I mean, still a Hall of Fame career, but I feel like it's like 3 fighters ahead of him, which means Habib's in the Hall of Fame. Didn't Frankie get inducted recently?
Pretty sure.
And of course, Islam will eventually be there as well. So that's just a deep division. Like there's gonna be a good bit of Hall of Famers in that division. You couldn't make a case for maybe even sneaking like a Dustin in there, maybe. Anything's possible.
Yeah.
We'll see. But before we get into this weekend's card, it's one more story. Something that I think we chatted about this. Like, did you see the turmoil going on with like the Global Fight League?
No, I haven't seen anything about that.
So yeah, it's supposed to kick off this month, but it's, according to the news story, it's failing to honor its commitments to the fighter in the wakes of the cancellation. They canceled the first 2 cards, and it's a pushback. I think they're supposed to be kicking it off next month, but it's reports by like a manager of a fighter in the league is saying that they're asking the fighters to compete for free because it's something that's not going through with their funding right now. They can't find the funding to really get it to take off. So when you look at this, is it like it's easier said than done to get something like this off of the ground? Because fighters that they've got on the roster, allegedly, they got like a Todd Duffy, a Tyron Woodley, Derek Brunson, Luke Rockhold, and I'm just reading fighters just off of one team. I'm not even. That's the Dubai team, and like on another team, you got like a Gustafsson. Also, a Benson Henderson is on another team, and then I'm just clicking over. They got 6 different teams, and then Verdum is on the team with a Shogun Hua and Douglas Lima. Like as far as name notoriety, like it got like notable people, and JDS is on the team. Thiago Santos, Yoel Romero, Hector Lombard, and Kat Zingano's on the team. Marlon Moraes. And then you got the LA team. You got Uriah Hall on that team. Like you talked about this guy earlier, Sage Norcutt. Uriah Hall. I didn't even know. I thought Uriah Hall was gonna be a coach. I didn't know he was actually fighting. That's crazy. And then OSP. Looking at the last team, Phil Hawes, Chris Weidman, Dylan Dennis. I don't even know why he's on a roster. That guy, Kevin Lee. So you got all these names that I named off, and it just seems like I guess they don't have a way to pay them because these guys are going to be wanting 6-figure paydays for a fight. So did they like bite off more than they could chew when they set this league up?
Yeah, I was just glancing through it. So one of the first things that it says is that it's basically a scam. It looks like that there was like a $20 million transferred into an account to show so they could like take a screenshot, show that they had the funds, but then it was like removed from the account. So it just made it look like they had the funds, but they really didn't have it. And yeah, they're asking fighters to like not take the pay, but actually get paid based on what revenue comes in from the fights. So, they're trying to go back on what the fighters were promised, is what it sounds like. So this is not good. Yeah, this is not very good at all. It looks like it says that, the teams were originally planned to be like 8 fighters, and some of the teams have been reduced to 6 fighters. Man, what a mess. I mean, it all sounded good in the beginning, but it's kind of just falling apart. It all sounded good in the beginning. If it sounds like something that could go good, maybe Dana White could swoop in and save it and buy the company.
That'd be crazy if he bought a company before he can even have his first event. Yeah, it might have been like I don't want to say a Ponzi scheme because that's a different definition altogether, but maybe if they're mapping it out, they thought they could get a little bit more funding than they could actually secure, and they spoke a little bit too soon. But it's unfortunate because I was looking forward to some of these fighters we saw in yesteryear compete again. I don't know, man. I feel like, with that being said, I feel like PFL kind of dropped the ball because a lot of these fighters were in PFL, and when they absorbed Bellator, it didn't go as smoothly as you would think it would go. And I feel like PFL is kind of taking a step back as far as people checking in for that. And it's crazy because they got the I'm about to say UFC, the ESPN, power behind them. They got like a big network, and they just don't have the names there right now. Because you had Kayla Harrison with like a high notoriety name, but she's a UFC now. And then you had all these fighters go to the GFL, a lot of the fighters that were on the Bellator roster. So seems like UFC is like putting the gap between them and other leagues a lot further ahead. I don't know. Is there any way for somebody to even compete with UFC at this point?
Not really. I mean, there used to be a couple that were close. We had the Strike Force, and they did all right. Bellator was doing okay. I mean, there's a couple people that know how to do it, but eventually it kind of fizzles out. What was it, Scott Coker? And he used to run, a couple of those companies, and he did decent at it, but he always ends up selling out. So I don't know. I mean, they need to have somebody that's good at running it. And he seems like the only guy that can run a stable business.
Is Dana White or Scott Coker?
Scott Coker, he's the only other guy outside of Dana White, and it seems like he can run a decent business. But it's like Dana White ends up, kind of buying up the businesses from him, or something happens.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Scott Coker did well with Strikeforce, and then he went to Bellator. I think Bellator's downfall was going behind that paywall when they went from Spike TV to Showtime, and like you could market, you kicking it on a Thursday or Friday night, and you could just throw on a channel that already comes with your subscription. And I remember we talked about that when it was Dada 5000 versus Kimbo. Like I remember a lot of people watching that fight, it was terrible.
Yeah. I mean, that's, if anybody wants to make it, that's what they got to do. They got to get somewhere where people can watch it for free and not put it on one of them, paid subscription place. You got to put it somewhere that it's free to get it exposure and get people interested in talking about it, because right now, especially in this economy, I mean, people don't want to pay extra for a relatively unknown product that, you got to get people hooked first before they want to pay for something. That's why the UFC does so good, because they have the top fighters, they got the top names, they got the top entertainment. So people will pay for that. You can't just charge for an unknown product.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I feel like we said, even though PFL is on ESPN, I think some of their cards are on ESPN Plus, which is like a paywall sort of. I think they try to do some fights on like ESPN too, but I feel like as far as like the marketing power, they kind of like little brother them compared to the UFC, because UFC is also on ESPN. So I feel like they prioritize UFC over PFL, even though they're on the same network. So I think Fox is like, it's right on the table for Fox. After they lost the UFC back in 2019, they could have stepped in and like had a Bellator on there, because I used to watch UFC on Fox all the time. They're on like Fox, the main channel, and then FS1, and that's free with your subscription, FS1. And Fox is free altogether if you have an antenna. So I feel like there's a market there for Fox to swoop in and get an MMA promotion, and then when you build it, they will come. So maybe you could get like a lot of these fighters that are supposed to be on GFL and fight on these Fox shows, and have people tune in again.
Yeah, and PFL, ESPN's too big for PFL. If you're going to put PFL on ESPN too, well, ESPN, you've got how many other sports and shit going on? Like, you got unknown people on PFL where you can watch pickleball or poker or college basketball. There's too many different choices to compete with unknown stuff. But if you got PFL on Fox, where there's not a lot of other sports going on, and this is the only free sport on right now, then you might be more interested in watching it because it's your only choice. So that's your better business decision, is to put PFL on something where there's not a lot of variety of sports.
Yeah, I feel like that's a no-brainer right there. It's been 6 years. Fox doesn't have like a combat sports. I think they may have had a little boxing on there maybe with Premier PBC, but I don't even know if they're still on there now. I think PBC went to Amazon, so they don't really have any combat sports on Fox right now. So maybe they've done the statistic behind it, but I feel like there's a market there. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that shakes out. But we've been talking about news stories for a long time to show. Let's get into this fight this weekend going down. And what part of Canada are they in this weekend?
Oh, let's see.
UFC. They're in Montreal, Quebec. Is that where J-Bomb's from? Montreal?
I think he's from up there.
We don't know. Somewhere up there in Canada.
Yeah. He's from Montreal.
Yeah, they're in his neck of the woods. I know that he wasn't a big UFC fan, but shit, if it was that close to me, I would look into tickets. But yeah, I think
and from what I'm hearing, tickets aren't selling very well for this event.
I mean, we can get into that when we talk about the main event. Maybe it's because of the main event, but me and Rucker talk about this on Boot to the Face with TKO. They're pricing the fans out I don't know how UFC fans have been reacting to it, because I feel like UFC fans will pay for anything, but a lot of these shows that they've been putting on for WWE, like I was at WrestleMania back a few weeks back, and those prices were astronomical. Like, I'm a single guy, so of course, like, I mean, it's not that big of a deal for me to pay for it because I'm only worrying about myself. But if I'm taking my family out there, like, how am I supposed to buy tickets for my family and buy a hotel? And if you're outpricing us, and they're like towing the line where they might start pricing fans out of not even going to these events, and they're a brother and sister company. So I see that happening maybe with the UFC. If you're saying that these tickets aren't selling well.
Yeah, it's somebody even posted on Facebook the other day showing like the WWE ticket prices compared to like 2 years ago to now, and it was like 3 or 4 times the price. Like, it's crazy.
It's absurd. And say what you want about Vince McMahon, and he is a piece of shit, but before selling it to a big corporation, it was kind of still like a family-run company, so they could kind of like control the ticket prices. But when you make this super company and you got to pay these shareholders, they're gonna look for any way they can make a buck. They're like, even meet and greets and merchandise and ticket prices. If they're setting the ticket prices at 300, 400 for nosebleeds and people are paying for them, they're gonna keep doing it, and it's nasty. I feel like the bubble's gonna burst one day, because I was borderline going to the Kansas City fight with the UFC, and I had something to do that day, and I ended up having enough time to actually make it there. Like, I would have just made the main card though, but I looked at the ticket price. I'm like, it's not even worth it. I'll just watch it at home, because I was just coming off going to WrestleMania the week before. So I'm like, fuck that, because the prices were ridiculous. I think it was like 400 or 500 for nosebleeds in that T-Mobile. Is it T-Mobile Center in Kansas City?
Really, what were you looking on?
Ticketmaster.
Because I got on the same day because I was down in Kansas City, and I was like, man, I might go. I was looking last minute, and there was floor tickets available for like $400.
Really? Maybe I didn't look at the right time. Maybe they were coming down.
Yeah, because I looked when I did look early, it seemed like they were pretty high. It was like nosebleeders for a couple $100, and I was like, that's insane. But the closer it got to fight night, it seemed like they really had come down because like it didn't seem like that good of a card to me. But yeah, I was surprised. I was like, wow, floor tickets for, not that much for what floor tickets usually go for.
And it's not even a pay-per-view though. It's a fight night. Why are tickets that high for a fight night?
Yeah, I think I think the tickets are that high just because they only come around once every 1 or 2 years. I think at this point.
Post-pandemic, it seems like they've been coming to Missouri like once a year. I mean, they were in St. Louis last year. The year before last, they were in Kansas City.
Yeah, well, I think last year, what was it, Max Holloway last time?
2023, yeah, I was at that fight. It was Max Holloway. And then last year they're in St. Louis. So they've been coming more often. I don't know, man. If people keep paying for it, they're not gonna lower the prices. So people are gonna have to like kind of do like a little mini strike. And if they start seeing those ticket prices dwindle, then I think they maybe come down a little bit on the prices. But like you said, the economy is not the best right now. So how do you expect people to pay these astronomical prices? I don't know. I guess we'll have to see how it plays out. But like we said, fight going down there in north of the border in Montreal, Quebec. A preliminary card. It featured a lot of Canadians on this card as expected, but kicking it off is we have Bracatona versus Bekzat Almacon in the bantamweight division, and then featherweight division we had Daniel Santos versus Lee Young, and then early prelim off. I feel like we talked about this fighter before. In the middleweight division, we got Marc-Andre Barriault versus Bruno Silva. That might be a fight worth watching. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, it should be a good fight. And I was actually looking ahead. I think Bruno Silva, he's set up on a fight that's coming up in a couple of months as well. So I don't know if this is a fight that they moved or if he really does have another fight scheduled in a couple of months. But yeah, if he shows up on another card that I was looking ahead to.
Yeah, I don't know what you got planned this Saturday. Did you plan on just kicking back and watching the fights, or did you have some? I know you said you're busy.
I always seems like I always have something. I don't even know what I have going on this Saturday. I'm probably going to try to catch it. I'll let her tell me what I'm doing this weekend. But
Hey, that's always the best answer. Let her dictate it. But looking at the prelims, light heavyweight division, we have Navajo Sterling facing Ivan Urslan, and then light heavyweight division, we also have Modestas Bukakas versus Ion Kudalaba. That should be an interesting one. And then the women's flyweight, this is definitely interesting. We got Jessica Andrade versus Jasmine Dazovicius. And then the cap this went off for the welterweight division, we got Mike Malott versus Charles Radke. Those are some interesting prelim as far as sometimes it's a hit or miss. Any one of those pique your interest?
yeah, I mean, the Jessica Andrade, I mean, that should be a good fight there. I mean, she's been at the top of the women's flyweight for quite a while. She's been around flyweight and strawweight. She's always a gamer. She's got some losses peppered in there, but she's always a gamer to fight. Big name going against Jasmine. Could be good. Mike Malott, he's always down to fight. Radke's good, so that's good with us to top off the prelims.
Oh, for sure. And moving on to the main card. Before I get into that, though, our predictions going into this one, Admire still ahead of everyone by one fight, 12-8. I'm 11. Me and Steve are both 11-9. Steve will give me his picks later, so once we do the recap, we'll factor those in. But kicking this one off in the lightweight division, is he coming off a win or loss? I know he just lost recently, but we got Benoit Saint Denis versus Kyle Prepolek. What are your thoughts on this one, Amar?
Oh, let's see. Well, this is the easy pick. Benoit Saint Denis is a minus 1,050 favorite.
Wow.
Against Kyle's plus 675 underdog. So I mean, this is an easy pick. But Benoit Saint Denis is
coming off of two losses, Poirier and Moicano.
Yeah, Poirier and Moicano, great fighters there. The Poirier knockout, I remember very clearly. The Moicano, I don't really remember. Oh, yeah, it was doctor stoppage.
Yeah.
What was it stopped for? I don't remember. Was it
I can't remember exactly either. We watched so many fights. I have to do a refresher.
I think it was a cut. I can't remember for sure. Or maybe it was a poke to the eye. I don't remember. But I mean, minus 1,050. I mean, you can't even risk, that. So I got to go with Benoit Saint Denis for sure. Unfortunately, Canada's setting up their Canadian guy to get his ass beat.
They seem to do that sometimes. This is, I wouldn't say quite a crossroads fight for Saint Denis, but coming off of two losses, he needs one to kind of boost that confidence up again. So I will also be taking Saint Denis in this one. Moving on to the women's flyweight division, we got your former champion, Alexa Grasso, versus Natalia Silva. What are the odds for this one?
Odds on this one, you got Grasso is the underdog plus 200. You got Silva as the favorite at minus 250.
Really?
Yeah, you got Grasso sitting up there at the number 1 spot. Silva's at the number 5 spot. But Grasso, coming off a loss to Valentina, and before that, she had the draw with Valentina. You got Silva. She long winning streak. She beat Andrade. Before that, she beat Lee. A couple other wins in there. I think for my pick, I'm going to go with the favorite on this as well. I'm going to take Silva for the win. I think Grasso's kind of on her decline, after the loss to Valentina.
I mean, that was her first loss in a while, though, too.
Yeah.
And what?
Yeah.
Grasso's only 31 years old. Ranked higher. That's interesting. Vegas sets their odds for a reason, but that's interesting that they got the number 1 ranked fighter as an underdog against the ranked number 5 fighter. That's kind of odd to me. I'm gonna go with Grasso on this one. She bounces back. When the bright lights come on, we see what a fighter is made of. And this is a high-profile fight for Silva. She's only 28. She's been on some fight night cards. Apex, so the Apex. Her last 2 were in Apex, so she's gonna be in front of the bright lights. She was on the O'Malley Sterling card, which was a big card, but I'm sure she was on the prelims in that one. So this is a main card, and there's a lot of pressure when it comes to the main card. She was on the early prelims, so there's barely anybody in the arena when she fought on that Sean O'Malley card. So I'm gonna go with Grasso on this one. Moving on to the bantamweight division. This should be a fun one. We got the former featherweight champion Jose Aldo versus Amin Zahabi. What do you think about this one, Admire?
Well, we got Jose Aldo coming in as the favorite at a -205 against Zahabi at a underdog +170. I think Aldo's looked really good in his last few fights. He is coming off of a loss, split decision to Batista. All of Aldo's last 6 fights have been decision. The wins and losses have been decisions. I think he's looked good in all of them. But the last name's Zahabi. Anybody wondering where you've heard that? Firas Zahabi, the trainer of GSP up there at TriStar. This is his brother, Canadian. I think that he's going to shine being up there, hometown, trained by one of the best. So I'm going to go with Zahabi on this. I think he's going to get the decision.
What's the odds on this one?
Aldo is -205 favorite against +170 underdog.
Give me Aldo on this one. I think he's going to turn back the hands of time, use that range, stop the takedown from Zahabi, because Zahabi is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so that's nothing to sneeze at. But I want to say Aldo, he's pretty high up there as far as Jiu-Jitsu belts as well. Yeah, he's a black belt as well. So we know all black belts don't come in the same form and as far as Jiu-Jitsu, depending on what gym you're at. But still, just going off the top of my head, I've seen some Amin fights, but I can't remember his striking prowess from what I've seen in his fights, because he was on the 2. He fought Archie Lang on there, and I remember talking about that fight, but this was 2 years ago. So many fights we've watched since then, so I can't remember Amin's striking prowess, but we know Aldo's an all-time great as far as striking goes. I mean, he's not the Aldo of 2012 or 2013, but he still could muster up a performance. So I mean, you think he'd be a little bit older as much as he's been fighting. He's still not even 40 yet, Aldo. So I'll go with Aldo this one, but this should be a good one. I feel like it could go either way. Those odds aren't like astronomical as far as difference. So we shall see. But moving on, let's go to these title fights in the co-main event. Women's flyweight, we got your champion, Valentina Shevchenko, putting that title on the line against Manny Pacquiao. What are your thoughts on this one, Emma?
Well, this one's a lot closer on the odds. We got Shevchenko as the actual underdog. Champion is the underdog at plus 110, and Perot is the favorite at minus 135. So very
Really?
close.
Really?
Yeah, very, very close to a pick 'em. Shevchenko, she's had 3 fights in a row against Grasso. She's had a loss, she's had a draw, she's had a win. So she's had all 3 ways with Grasso. Perot, a lot of wins. She's had 12 wins in a row. She lost her first ever professional fight, and then she's won everything since. She's beat Blanchfield. She's beat Rose. She's beat everybody. I don't know, man, because it's hard because Shevchenko has had these fights with Grasso over the last 2-3 years. So you haven't seen her mix up her opponents, so you don't know what her style has been and changed over those times because she's had the same opponent.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got similar but different styles. I mean, Shevchenko, you've got this Muay Thai, kickboxing, judo type fighting, but you've got jiu-jitsu and karate. I got to go with a new champ. I'm going with Perot.
Yeah, and you said Perot was like a minus 100 something.
Yeah, Perot is a minus 135. So I mean, it's close. Minus 135 plus 110.
Yeah, I mean, even though lately she's been a decision machine her last 5 fights. The last person she's finished was Tabitha Ricci, damn near 4 years ago. This is gonna be a close one. I think I'm with you though. I think I'm gonna go with new champion with Perot, just based on what I've seen of late. And doing a trilogy with a fighter, that takes a lot out of you. Like you said, she's been seeing the same opponent the past 3 years as far as Shevchenko goes, and she's no spring chicken, which makes me feel old because we're the same age. But as heavy as the head that wears the crown, and it's hard to keep that belt. So even though Ferro's not that much younger than her, she's only a couple years younger, but I'm gonna go with new champion, and I don't know if that'll be it for Shevchenko because I feel like she still can maybe have a second win going back up the bantamweight if she does lose. But we'll talk about that if that comes. She may win this weekend. This is pretty much a pick 'em, but me and Admire are both going with Ferro in this one. Should be a good scrap. Let's talk about the main event, though. Admire, the welterweight division. We got your champion, Bilal Muhammad, versus Jack Della Maddalena. And you said going into this one, there was some newsworthy stories and whatnot.
Yes, let me see. So Dana White confirmed that. So there's some implications on this fight. So if Bilal wins, we'll get Islam against Taporia. But if Madalena wins, we'll get Taporia against Oliveira.
What does that have to do with each other?
Because the way it lines up, it just depends on what Islam's going to do, basically. If the way I understand it, if Madalena wins, then Islam's going to come up and fight
Oh, okay.
Madalena.
I see.
But if the law wins, Islam's going to stay and fight Topuria.
Okay. So does Islam not want to fight a fellow Muslim? Is that why? Is that why?
I don't know the exact why. I didn't dig into it too deep, but this was reported by Errol Hawani, so I want to say this does have credit. So, yeah, Dana White confirms at the presser that is true. So this will determine who Topuria fights on June 28th.
Well, I guess we got to see how things shake out. I always thought it was Caparia vacated his title a little bit prematurely. He defended it like once. So hey, I guess this is what he wants. So it all depends on how this fight shakes out. But looking at the actual fight, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, you got Muhammad coming in as the favorite at minus 185. Madalena coming in as the underdog at 154. And on this one, I have to go with the odds makers on this one. And, even if the odds were reversed, I would go with Muhammad on this one. And I'm basing this purely on strength and schedule. Muhammad has fought a lot of really good people and beat them. Madalena, I think, has kind of got fast tracks to this position. He's really beat the big names. He's beat Kevin Holland by split decision. So he didn't even, have an impressive win there. And he beat Gilbert Burns by knockout. Other than that, his win before those two was a guy that doesn't even have a Wikipedia. It was split decision. So Madalena doesn't even have like this roster of wins that, to me, justifies having a big title shot. So, if you want to look at, Muhammad's wins, he's got this row of guys, Leon Edwards, Gilbert Burns, Sean Brady, Luke A., Stephen Thompson, Damian Maya, this whole list of guys, even back to somebody like Jeff Neal, Ken Means, all these guys. So if MMA math doesn't always work. It doesn't mean everything. But if you just look at strength of schedule alone, Belal Muhammad has been in there with guys that have been around, with experienced fighters. He's been in there with champions. Madalena has been in there with Gilbert Burns and Kevin Holland. Just experience alone tells me that Muhammad should win this fairly easy. I'm not saying Madalena's not tough. I'm not saying Madalena doesn't have a chance, but just based on that alone, I have to go with Muhammad.
Yeah, I feel like for some reason people don't want to give Muhammad the respect that he deserves, and this will definitely be a step in the right direction if he's able to get the win this weekend. Because like you said, he's basically fought who's a who in that division. He get the rematch against Leon Edwards and got the title up off him. And I don't know why. Maybe his fighting style isn't the most exciting. Maybe that's why people don't want to give him the respect that he deserves. But that's a hell of a fight. That's a hell of a win streak. If you take out the no contest that he had with Leon Edwards, like I can't even count it off the top of my head. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in a row if you don't count that no contest. Like you said, he beaten Gilbert Burns, Edwards, Luke, Wonder Boy, Maya. The only one I'm not seeing in there, and I don't even know if we'll ever see this matchup. I don't see Usman on this list. I don't see Usman.
Yeah, that's like the only person that he hasn't beat. But I mean, we at one point were talking about in Leon Edwards, like one of the greatest of all time, is at welterweight, just because we were trying to add it up, and then Muhammad beat Edwards, so we were like, okay, well maybe Muhammad is him. Maybe Muhammad is one of the greatest welterweights. So I mean, he's kind of got to be in that conversation now with everybody that he's beat. And this is just another step in that way. You know, he hasn't beat Usman, but he's beat damn near everybody else.
Yeah, I don't put Edwards on that all-time great. I put Usman on there because as much as he's knocking on GSP's door, and he fell asleep at the wheel against Edwards. I think Edwards is just a transitional champion, but yeah, you got to maybe start putting Bilal in those conversations. But he's got to I feel like you got to at least defend it at least 3 times. Just start knocking on that door of, you know, all-time welterweight great. And will this be his first defense? So this is, yeah, you guys even defended it once. So you got to start somewhere. But I feel like this may be a better conversation for after the fights. But we still hadn't really talked about where's Hamzat in all of this.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's scary. I mean, I don't know.
I still feel like Hamzat will be like an all-time great. Like you don't want to speak before it actually happens because I feel like he would be like impossible to beat once he does get the title. But yeah, we don't know what's happening with him, so we'll have to see everything shake out. Because I also got Bilal winning this fight, like you said, based on a strength of schedule, and if he wins this fight, it'll be time for people to put some respect in his damn name. And I think he'll control the fight in the grappling department and just wear Jack out. And might not be a finish, but he'll probably get a comfortable victory decision. I got it by decision. So, yeah, but it's interesting. You said the tickets aren't selling well for this. You think people hadn't really gotten on the Bilal train, maybe a factor on it?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. I just don't think that people believe this will be a really fighting fight. I mean, it has a chance to, kind of be a snoozer.
Well, you never know. Sometimes fights can be snoozers, end up being bangers, and vice versa. With the boxing that happened last weekend, a lot of people shitted on all the boxing, and then Inoue came on through in the last night and put on a banger. So I guess we'll have to see how things shake out with this weekend. But we'll be tuned in, watching all the fights and seeing how things shake out, and we'll come back next week and recap this whole card. But coming close to the end of the show, make sure to follow us on all social media platforms, YouTube, IG, TikTok, and got to get back on the TikTok scene. That's my fault, but I'll get back on it. But we appreciate all the support out there. But like I said, we'll be back to recap all the madness that goes on in the cage. But that'll do it for us here at Haymaker Combat Sports. Until next time, be safe out there. Later.
Hit the takedown, ground and pound, that was from the top. Heel hooking on one platter, leave you in the knot. Pound for pound, been the greatest, sitting on the top. Man, I'm laughing at the fools who think they coming for the spot. You ain't got a shot, it's already mine.